If you're thinking of buying a block of land and building your own home, you need to listen to this episode because we have an expert here to tell us about the pitfalls that you'll need to avoid.
Welcome to Your First Home Buyer Guide, the podcast for first home buyers who want to get it right.
I'm Megan and that was Veronica. We're both buyer's agents and probably old enough to be your mums. But that's a good thing because between us we've got over 40 years experience and we are going to share with you bucket loads of stories about avoidable mistakes. Together, we're going to make sure that you get unbiased and real information that you can rely on so you can get where you want to be without missing a step.
Now, we've got loads of great tips for you in this episode, and if you'd like more useful tools, head over to the website homebuyeracademy.com.au. There you'll find free checklists that you can download, a free mini course on how to price a property, and our Where to Buy workshop for only $39. Priceless stuff, really.
Bargain. But before we get into the interesting stuff in this week's episode, here's the boring bit, the disclaimer. You, of course, know that nothing in this podcast is to be taken as personal advice. We always recommend getting the advice of an expert in their field of expertise. Now, we've done our very best to ensure that the content is correct at the time of recording, but things change. So check with the relevant government authority or your advisors to get the most up-to-date information.
Today we're talking about building a home from scratch. And even though regular listeners will know that we're not fans of house and land packages, we also know that many of you will be attracted to brand new. So we want to make sure that you're well informed before you go down that path. But before we do that, Megan, in the video behind her, has this picture of a house, which is...
And it's mine again.
Well, it's going to be brand new when it's finished, but it's a renovation rather than new build. Yeah. What's happening?
Oh, look, it's going really well, actually, on track and on budget so far. So that's good. That's been a lot of time and effort as we talk about. You know, you have to be involved. You have to keep cracking the whip and make things stay on track. So we're just about at lock-up. This was Monday and today's Wednesday. So we're 2 days down the track now. There's windows and doors up the top and they're cladding up top. So progressing quite well. This is the back of the house.
So exciting. Love it come to shape. It's so wonderful.
Can't wait to take you all for a tour.
Woohoo! All right. Well, we're joined today by a new home specialist, Kerri-Ann Hooper. And Kerri-Ann works with her clients from the start of the building process until handover. So that's advising on everything from interior design choices, budgets, improvements, to plans to suit family needs, et cetera, to dealing with builders. So thank you for joining us, Kerri-Ann. And we're going to ask you a bunch of questions and we want you to really show us all the scary things and all the misinformation so that our listeners can avoid those common traps. But tell us first, how did you get into this line of work?
Yeah, I've always loved building. So my parents had real estate agents when I was young. So my first job was, I think, about 15, 16 as a real estate secretary. So I've always been around building, whether it's been with slate and tile. Place, remember slate?
Yeah.
So my parents own that, real estate agents, and they actually own a building company too. So even when my kids were little, I was involved somehow with building, and then got to 40 and thought, I've got to do something for myself. I hate people telling me what to do in a normal 9 to 5, and I wanted to make something of myself. So I started the business. My sister, we sort of split the business in two after a few years. She sort of took the property management side and I'm stuck with the building. And so that's been 12 years this year.
So you're not a builder. Let's just clarify that. You're not a builder.
No.
But you work with people who want to build.
That's right.
To kind of be, somewhere in the middle? Talk us through that.
So I say that I'm a building broker / new home specialist. So I liaise between my client and my builders. So I deal with about 5-6 builders. They're offering, either turnkey, custom builds, duplex builds, so a range of things that they offer. So it depends on what my client's needs are, requirements, budget, as to which particular builder I believe would be suitable for them.
So have your clients bought the block of land already, or are you helping them work out what block of land to buy and then what house to put on it?
A bit of both. So some people come to me and have already got the land and saying, we want to build an investment, want to build their forever home on it. Or I have turnkey house and land packages that are ideal for investors or first-time buyers. And so they're set on particular blocks in particular states. I don't actually own the land. It's just liaising with the actual salespeople who are selling the land and with my builders. Yeah, so it's a bit of both.
I'm really curious because we this is something that we do talk about. Who pays for your expertise?
Yeah, so I have an admin fee of $4.95 that I charge my clients. That's just with all the running around with the build contract and so forth. And then I'm paid by the builder. So I don't get anything off the land. It's paid by the builder at slab and frame. So that's why with weather and delays, it can be a little while before I'm paid.
So it's a little bit of both. So the client is paying you what you call it, an admin fee.
And then
the builder who is awarded the work, part of their contract fee is shared with you.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so It's a commission. It's commission at slab and at frame.
So there's a lot of commissions, and I was going to ask you some other questions first, but I think we should probably go down this path at the beginning of this chat. All right. There is a lot of commissions in the whole house and land package thing, right? Which is one of the reasons we are not fans. There's lots of reasons we're not fans, but one of the reasons is there's a lot of hidden kickbacks and fees that go under the ground, if you like, or under the surface that the buyer doesn't necessarily know about, and therefore can be overpaying by quite a lot of money because they're unaware of all these kickbacks. And, you know, there's a whole network of advisors. I know accountants recommend, mortgage brokers recommend house and land packages, financial advisors even I've heard of recommending house and land packages. And often, you know, they're remunerated for doing so, and often very large amounts of money as well. And so can you just, I guess, put a spotlight on that for us? Explain to us how it works. Because first home buyers in particular, I'm just saying that you know, that would have no idea about this. I mean, most people would have no idea, but particularly first home buyers who've never gone down this path before, be just sitting ducks, right?
Yeah, and there is a lot of what the word you say, sharks out there maybe who
Yep, sharks, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a few other terms we could probably come up with that aren't appropriate.
They do collect these large commissions. And I'm honest, I do not collect that much. I always reduce my commission down. I actually have my builder saying you need to be charging more. But no, I want a house and land package to actually go across the line. Because if you have these huge $40,000 commissions on them, you're not going to, evaluation's going to fall short. So yeah, there is definitely in that around the market, but I'm just talking about myself. I'm honest. I will tell you exactly how much I'm paid by the builder, and I am all for the client. And I want to get that a pass by the bank. I want to get their house and land package approved by the bank. And there's no use having, you know, these huge commissions on it where I know the valuations are going to fall short.
It's a great point, because what then happens to somebody who has unwittingly gone and entered into a contract for a house and land package, not realising that there's all these referral fees that are built into the price that they're paying, and then the valuation comes short? I mean, you must have heard stories of what's happened.
I mean, it is quite common, though, for valuations to fall short, especially in new estates where there's nothing that they can compare it to. And do I need to go into the valuer's point of view? But so it's either that, I suppose with the client, they need to ask their broker or wherever they're going through, you know, are there any commissions? How much are these? And to just see if it does fall short of valuations, then the money has to come from somewhere. I mean, I know that, you know, 10 years ago, there's a popular estate that's Cameron Park around Newcastle that always came in at $20,000 less with a valuation. So I had clients who had to put $20,000 on their credit cards. So
that is so hard to find.
It is.
You've put your hands in your pockets for every single penny that you've got
Sorry for the old terminology there, everybody. And there's nothing usually left. So credit cards is what some people are doing to get that across the line.
And as we'll talk about, yeah, I know. And as we'll talk about, later on, that people putting their extras in building on credit cards as well. So, yeah.
Well, let's get into that. Okay, so let's just sort of put a line under this bit of the chat where if you are being recommended by your broker or by somebody else who's saying you should go and buy this house and land package, blah, 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 the very first question you need to ask is, are you getting paid by the developer, the agent, the builder, anybody? Are you getting paid by anybody else in relation to this? And so I think that's a very important question.
It's that transparency in the process, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And if it's an investment as well, you need to do your research. Just don't be pushed into some particular area because you're being told to do some background research.
Well, and this is a podcast for first home buyers, but of course we do have some rent investors listening who are thinking that they want their first property to be an investment as opposed to living in it. And there's a lot of misinformation out there in this space pitching brand new properties to investors. And they use statistics in a way that is very, very misleading. And a couple of things. First of all, depreciation. Right. Depreciation is something the government gives you some money back, for losing money, basically, when you own an investment property or any investment. When you invest in anything, if you lose money, the government will give you some money back against your tax. And so what it means, though, is that the maximum amount of money that you get back is your highest tax rate. And the average Australian is paying, I think, 35 cents on the dollar. And so that means you lose $1, you get 35 cents back. You're automatically 65 cents out of pocket. So I know there's an idea about that, but because it's brand new, you get all this depreciation and that's not really money out of your pocket, but it is money out of your pocket, particularly if you're paying a huge commission for the property. You've already overpaid because it's brand new. So this is scary stuff, right? And also
not to mention that you actually have to pay it back at the end when you sell too.
100%. Yes, you do. Exactly right. You have to pay it back.
Most people don't know that.
I know, it's so true. Yes. So the government gives you one hand and takes back with the other.
It certainly does.
So that's on the investment side. But also the other thing, there's a lot of misinformation, is this idea of a growth corridor.
That sounds like that one in Newcastle might have been perhaps advertised or marketed in that way. Was it, Kerri-Anne? Can you remember something around that? Was it, this high growth area?
Well, it definitely is now. It's funny, like 10 years ago, people didn't want to go out that way at all. They thought, oh my gosh, 20 minutes from Newcastle from Tanner, and that's too far away. But now people are quite happy to travel 45 minutes away. So yeah, I think it's just perceptions. Perceptions change. But yeah, you need to.
The point being, Veronica.
Let's just distinguish between what's growth. Growth in terms of lots of new buildings being built, that's one type of growth. Growth in terms of the values of those properties going up is a very different type of growth. But the same word is used to allude and suggest that they're going to see price growth, but that doesn't always happen, and certainly can take a long time to happen.
That's why you need someone like me who's honest and on the ground and has been around for a long time.
Excellent. So
actually,
go.
On that point,
falling over ourselves here.
We get very excited. Can you take us through some of the common additional costs that can catch people out during the process
of building? Yeah. So I suppose going back to the display builders, and I will put a caveat that my builders aren't the big display builders.
So when you say display builders, let's help everyone just kind of catch up on, the different types of builders. So display builders.
They have the big display homes and the big display, little.
So you might go to a village and you get to walk through and you get to feel what the houses are before you actually build it.
And they always look gorgeous. They look amazing. I love, all the colours, all the furnishings. They look amazing. And this is what worries me. People go there and they get a price and they get their 50 to 60,000 discount, or they get the luxury inclusions, and they think, right, that's the price. This is the price I'm going to the bank with. But that's not right. It's not up like 90% of the time. That is not the correct price.
Oh God, that must be so hard to deal with when you start to realise what's not in there.
Yeah. So the big builders can't afford to throw away $50,000, $60,000 each build. So you are going to be charged extra during the build.
The whole idea of a $60,000 discount. I mean, what's the average? So to give us some context here, what would the average what would be a normal expectation to pay for the property to be built? Would it be 300,000, 400,000?
Oh, well, then it depends on what you're expecting actually in the build. Because what is great for first home buyers with me is turnkey. So everything's included inside and out. So that's, you're looking around 400,000.
So turnkey is very different to just
a normal build price.
Different to lock up.
They're very different to lock up, isn't it? So tell us a bit more about turnkey.
Turnkey, virtually, turn the key in the front door, walk in and everything's done. So that's everything inside. So your blinds, your carpets, your tiles, dishwasher, obviously your oven, all your lights, fans, aerial, power points, all done inside. Outside you have your driveway, you have your fencing, your landscaping, your clothesline and your letterbox. So it's all done. Turn the key and going. So obviously...
so different to most build.
I know.
Trucks.
You don't even get a driveway. So
no blinds.
That's right. So, I mean, that's why it's so great for first-home buyers, because everything's done and you don't have to worry about cooling up a concrete when you moved in and there's mud and dirt everywhere all through your house, all done, and you can change things afterwards. At least you're in, everything's done. It's nice and secure. And you pull down the blinds. You don't have to worry about the neighbours. So
no sheets on the window.
Yes, or cardboard boxes, which I've seen. But yeah, so you're looking around for a turnkey for a 4-bedroom home, meters, small, standard size. It's around about that 400,000. So, but then obviously some of these big builders, they're starting at 200,000, 250,000 to people. And I think it's wonderful.
It sounds amazing. What a deal.
There's a lot of things. They strip a lot of things back and you are going to be charged extra during the build.
So it's a bit like getting a budget airline, a budget flight where you have to pay then extras you pay for your seats.
For your leg room and all that.
You have to pay for luggage. You have to pay for a meal. Like it's like if I'm getting a discount. And I guess also the idea, because the reason I asked you what's the average sort of cost is because a $60,000 discount on a $400,000 build, that's a significant percentage. And so it's like, well, how can they afford to give that much away for starters without some serious cutting back of something? Or is it one of those things where, it's that little marketing trick, they put the price up 60 grand so that they can then tell you that you got a 60 grand discount when they take 60 grand off it?
Well, there's all these variables that can come into it. That's the thing. And that's where the clients are charged during the build. So a major thing is your contour plan. So I don't know if you know what that is, but when you're buying a block of land, whether it's registered or unregistered, you get your plan and it has, your dimensions, it has where your easements are, and then it'll have diagonal lines across it. And that's your contour. It's the slope of the land. So obviously people want as flat land as they can because that helps with building costs. But if your land is not registered, as in you're buying off the plan and, your block of land's a bit of dirt over there, mold of dirt over there, the salesperson says that's your land over there, that bit of dirt. And then when you come to register, as in the roads are in, your services are in, everything's done, it's all being ticked off by council, it's all approved by the Land Titles Office. And the builder goes to start, oh no, your contour plan, your block of land is more sloping than what we originally thought. So it's going to cost this amount of money, $15,000 for a drop edge beam. We need to drop the garage down and have a step up from the garage to the house, because the driveway, when you do the driveway, has to be at a certain level to get approval by council. We need to put in more retaining. I know you need to do that retaining. A lot of the big builders will not do retaining, so they expect the clients to do retaining. So all of a sudden you've got this approval for this house and, oh my God, I've got to go and find a landscaper now to do retaining walls because my builder won't start putting down the slab until the retaining wall's done because the block of land is more sloping than we originally thought. So that's a huge thing. There's other things like that affect the actual approval process is the basics, the heating and cooling of the home. So the house has to achieve a certain rating to get the tick with the basics. So if that comes to being submitted to council, like, oh no, you're just got standard basics. I put that in parentheses. So you need a bigger rain tank. You need solar panels on your roof. You need, extra fans in your house. Well, okay, so there's an extra. That's going to be an extra to the cost. So, and then your bushfire requirements. So every block of land has a BAL rating, BAL rating. Okay, well, it's come back from council. You've got a rating of 12.5. That's another $5,000 there, please, because the house needs to have certain requirements to pass this bushfire rating. So there's even things, before we've even started, there's some of the things that you could be charged extra for. So it could be up for $20,000 already and you haven't even started.
And these aren't uncommon things either, are they? These are I would imagine these things come up quite often.
They pop up a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, and you talk about services, and that's the terminology people might not realise. It's like when you got these new subdivisions, if the power and the water hasn't actually been taken to your block.
Yes.
You then might have to, depending on, the setup, you might have to pay additional to get the services extended to wherever your block is.
So that's another
that could
10.
run into sewerage and stormwater as well.
Yeah, you don't want to go anywhere near sewerage. Yeah, that's right. You don't want to build over sewerage. That's a big cost there. But if you've got a bandlax block, so a block behind another block, and you've got a driveway, and if your services are down the bottom of that driveway, to get those services up, you're up for $10,000. So at least, yeah, that's a big thing. And sometimes in the build contract, it'll give you an allowance with the services. Okay, well, we're allowing 10 linear meters for the electricity, for the water or whatever. So if you're going over that allowance, then you'll charge extra for that.
And it's almost impossible for the first time. These contracts are huge, aren't they? These build contracts are huge. We've talked about off-plan purchasing contracts, but then when you go into the actual builder's contract, there is a lot in there, and there is a lot that if you don't know what you don't know it's missing. Because it's very easy to read something and go, oh, okay, that's included. But if you don't know that the basic or sewerage connections or what the limitations are, how much the allowance is and what is reasonable, it's all well and good to say, well, there's a PC amount, a provisional cost amount in a contract of X dollars. Oh, okay, well, that seems reasonable. Reasonable against what benchmark?
Yeah.
And that's the thing I think that, I'm certainly really picking up for our listeners is with these types of arrangements, it's all well and good to say, well, all of these things are included, but it's what you don't know that we're starting to hear from you can almost be the most costly part of this whole process and can end up, not many people have a $20,000 credit card when they're first home buyers because you've brought your limits down to be able to borrow the money.
Well, the big thing too is hidden site costs, because that's in your contract. If there's any hidden site costs, it's charged to the owner. So a big thing is rock. I mean, I've seen rock.
Yes. Oh, Veronica knows all about rock.
Well, the opposite actually. I've had done a renovation where I had to get out a lot of rock that was a bit more than we expected. I've also done a renovation where there wasn't rock where we thought rock would be, and so I had to pay to get 22 piers put in. So it can go either way, but I think that this is the thing. Until you start digging, you've got no idea whether you got rock or don't have rock.
That's right. I mean, you can get geotech, tests and all that, but they can't do every little, square inch of the
they do.
block
They
of
do
land.
2 spots usually, don't they? Certainly in my renovation, they did 2 spots. That was actually a really interesting process to watch, just as a byline. If you're ever interested in this sort of stuff, go and watch building processes because they're absolutely fascinating. Yeah.
So I've seen rock bills up to 70,000, and it's not actually, when they're digging for the house, it's the plumbers as well. When they're digging to put the drainage in, you can be charged for that. And it's actually getting rid of the rock as well. I mean, the worst noise in an estate is when you drive in and you hear a rock breaker just going endlessly to trying to break through the rock. But you've got to get that on a...
And you're seeing dollar signs.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you can use it and you build somehow, but in these packaged builds, there's no flexibility. Well, I can use rock instead of brick.
Yes. Well, sometimes too, you're not allowed to actually leave soil or rock on your land as well with council requirements. And if you're building in an established street, so if you've got a block of land in a house that's row of houses that have been there for years and years, what's in underneath that? The footings, like, is there asbestos in there? Have they buried bricks? And then the builder's got to take that away, and they've got to have a particular certificate to say that's clean fill. So if it's asbestos, then costs go up and up.
Costs go up and up, don't they?
But I bought a house, the first house I actually bought some years ago now, and it was actually a newly built, one of four. And outside, and it used to be in an area that was all orchards. So the builder had actually taken away all the soil and sold it and replaced it with when I got the landscaping done, oh my God, what we found out there. It was basically full of rubbish. Like there was old saucepan buried in there. There was cassette tapes. There was all sorts of, like kids' toys, bits of crockery. There was glass jars. It literally had been taken out of a dumpster somewhere, mixed in with a big chunk of clay and mud, basically. And that was basically what they had replaced, what was good soil in our back.
He sold off the good soil and replaced it.
Yeah. Sold it with shit. Like,
Oh my God.
so, strange things happen, but that's a long time ago. And I don't think I've told that story before on this podcast. We've told lots of our stories from our early days before we knew what we know now.
Keep coming out.
Yeah.
So tell us, Kerri-Anne, one of the things I always think about, one of the reasons we talked about hidden costs and also the commissions that are bolstering up the price you pay. And so therefore there's, valuations potentially not coming in at the right level, et cetera, et cetera. So there are a lot of risks around buying a new house and land package in a new suburb, particularly when you're talking about, like you said, over there, that's your block of land, but the boundaries haven't been drawn up. It hasn't been submitted to the office of, the land titles office. So it hasn't been registered. It's like you can buy land off the plan, which is sort of weird. Well, there's land, it exists, you have to build it, but you obviously have to subdivide it and put the services in and all the rest of it. But how do you know whether or not that's going to be a nice development down the track? You're sort of assuming that all nice houses are going to be built. There's going to be nice gardens and trees. Everything's ripped out of these sites. It's like they're taken back to scorched earth, basically. What little signs are there? Are there little signs? Are there pointers to say that actually this will be a nice development, or that will not be a nice development? You don't want to buy into that one because you just don't know, and until they all start taking shape, particularly when I've seen complex suburbs where there's been so many investors buy in, and you can just tell no one gives a shit. The gardens aren't done, like it's just a mess. And others where a lot of owner occupiers have bought in, and everyone's really big on the landscaping and really wanting to turn it into a lovely area.
Yeah, I think the main thing is to look at the master plan. In Newcastle, the developers are really protective of their estate, so they sort of won't let in a lot of investors. So they're very particular what particular lots investors can have. I must admit that.
Interesting.
I think that's unique to Newcastle. But yeah, definitely look at the master plan because a lot of the new estates, they have parks, they have shops, they have daycare centres. So no, I don't believe that there's any, estate, especially around Newcastle, that, look ugly or that. The developers do take care with how the picture of the actual estate will look like news down the track.
Can I just pick up on that, because there's also other things that can be, that can be nice things like these additional facilities and the lifestyle aspects, but there can also be limitations placed on what you can and can't do in some of these estates, can't they? So whether that be a covenant, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, there was one estate in West Wallsend where the particular house had to be designed a certain way. They had to look like old miners' cottages. That they had to have the veranda out the front, picket fence, so that seemed to change a little bit as time went on. It didn't have to be a timber picket fence. It could be a steel fence or pull fence. So some estates do impose restrictions or requirements, and that's another thing to look out for with your price that you've got from your display builder. Is that all included in there? But yeah, there's certain colours that they like the estate you to choose from for your bricks. And how the actual house looks from the outside with the facade as well. So they're trying to protect, with this particular one in West Wallsend, they were trying to protect the heritage of the estate. And so that it just had to be built a certain way. If you wanted to build in there, you needed the front porch.
That could be good from an aesthetic point of view, can't it? Because there's some uniformity around it, but it can also really impact on costs if that wasn't what you were planning, and there can be some limitations also. I know my parents, when they built in the 1990s down in northern New South Wales, they couldn't have a front fence. So that was a covenant of the estate that they built it, bought into. And when, my brother and I had young children, we couldn't let them out the front to play because there wasn't any fence to keep them safe. So these things can have both a positive and a negative impact. So it's so important to understand what they are and that they get passed on to the buyer when you sell. That they're not just for you when you build.
Do you know, we buy some properties in the lower North Shore of Sydney, and it's interesting because these were all subdivisions back in like the 1920s and the 1930s, and they've still got these covenants that insist that you have to have a tile roof and it has to be brick. And there's certain things that obviously back then they wanted to preserve, the I guess the socioeconomic the makeup of the people, the status of the suburbs. So you couldn't have any timber homes because they're down at, they're poor. Or poor people have timber homes in Sydney.
We'll have them all in Queensland, thank you.
Yeah. So, but also in some new estates as well, they might have community facilities and you might have ongoing costs, and that's something to be aware of as well. You might have to contribute to, a country club. I mean, maybe that's a highfalutin sort of sound, but I know that there are some estates where it's not a huge cost, but it is something that you need to factor in, that you might a couple of grand a year, for argument's sake, contributing to these, some parklands or community grounds or whatever.
Yeah, not so much now. There was a couple a few years ago, but not so much now, not in Newcastle area anyway, especially not the estates that are recommended for first-time buyers anyway at that price point. They don't have that fee. But yes, it has definitely been around that community fee.
Now, Kerri-Anne, obviously you are based in Newcastle and so you're very familiar with all that, but have you helped people in other states or in other areas? Are there big differences, do you think?
With Queensland, I have house and land packages, but not for first-time buyers, for investors. I love Queensland with their estates, how they get all the shops done. They have the schools there, the daycare, and then they sell the land, where it seems to be a little bit different down this way. They sell the land and they're waiting for like 10 years for the tavern to be built or something. So, yeah. So that's basically the differences I've seen between the two estates. Yes.
The important point, actually, because I know there are a lot of satellite suburbs, and I've heard this anecdotally in Melbourne as well, that there's on the outskirts of Sydney and the outskirts of Newcastle, you're talking now, you're 20 minutes out from town centre, that's the outskirt in a regional centre. And in Melbourne, it's apparently 100 kilometres from one side of the city to the other. It just keeps going.
Yeah.
And that is, been a common problem, that this infrastructure they build a suburb and then the infrastructure catches up later after all the people have had to move out there with 3 cars per family, because they haven't had access to public transport or just schools, or these things haven't necessarily materialised straight away, and that has created a problem in terms of capital growth as well, because until those things are established, it's like no one's getting the benefit of buying brand new, so why would I go out where I don't, where it's hard to live there?
Travel everywhere by car.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Have you, I guess we don't do house and land packages, so therefore we're not that experienced, but were you aware of that in Queensland, Megan?
Yeah, look, it tends to be that way, and particularly the master plan communities around Springfield Lakes, North Lakes, they really did put the infrastructure in quite well, but they were very, very, very. We're not talking about 100 or 200 blocks of land. We're talking about thousands of blocks of land. Yeah. So it was really about creating these centres that had employment opportunities and attracting businesses to those centres that were outside of the city area to get people to move and work in different locations. So there was actually, they've been highly strategically planned to move people away from the city, and to a large degree that has worked. And there are those employment opportunities. And they are thriving communities. So that certainly has been something that has been done quite well in Queensland in a number of developments. I'm not talking about those being successful from a capital growth perspective or from anything other than, I guess, the strategic input that was done to think about these things and put the facilities in place before the people came or as the people were coming, so that people could actually see what life looked like.
and the infrastructure that was put in place around transport as well has been quite good in these big developments. Probably not as familiar with any of the smaller developments, say under 2 or 100 lots.
I think that's a good distinction too, because certainly in Sydney, there's been some large master plan communities on the outskirts that have been built and probably the same degree of planning and probably the same degree of success in terms of just the livability of them. But certainly, I think you've got to have a scale, don't you? I mean, we're talking thousands of houses. Of course, there's the scale to fund all that infrastructure. It's these smaller suburbs necessarily that are being built that aren't necessarily being master planned by the Stocklands and the Lendleases of the world and the Mirvacs, those huge developers. And I don't know, Fraser's in that space too. Those big developers. And so we're not necessarily talking about those, are we? I mean, those smaller developers or those smaller subdivisions.
Smaller subdivisions more than the developers themselves, because they certainly have some large land holdings that are being developed over time. But yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's if it's big enough, then you have the capability to attract the businesses to be able to build the infrastructure, the private schools, the shops, the centres that will bring businesses to that location. Because without those businesses, of course, those sorts of things aren't going to flourish. You have to sort of do both of those in tandem with each other. Bring the people who are going to spend the money, but bring the businesses that are going to provide the services.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Do you find a lot of people would come to you and then their friends come to you as well because they're like, oh, we all want to live together?
It's mainly that they're talking to their friends at a barbecue and they're saying, I want to build, and they'll say, oh, we'll talk to Kerri-Anne. No, I think mainly especially with first-time buyers, it's driven by budget. And like I said, we're being, 20, 40 minutes out of Newcastle now is not a problem where it was 10 years ago. So everyone's, what they perceive to be a long travel period is not that much in me, especially because we've got more roads like the expressway put in. So to go up to the Hunter is not a problem anymore than how it was and going around all the other suburbs. But no, it's mainly that they talk to their friends, but not to actually live together. It's more like in the same area. It's more driven by their budget.
Got it. Now tell us, we ask all of our guests this question, Kerri-Anne. What is the one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you were a first home buyer?
The heating costs. That would be the big thing.
Did you get caught out yourself?
Yeah, tell us about it. There's something under that story.
Yeah, for my business, we built 5 times. We've never brought an existing home. We've always built. Love building, love the smell of fresh paint. I just love it. Love. So yeah, we're actually on quite a sloping block of land. So we got caught out with the services where the services were. That was a little bit extra. What else do we? Oh, rock. Yes, of course we got caught out with rock on one of them. Our first house land package was 100,000. That's 28.
Oh, those are the
29
days.
years
Wow.
ago. So, yes. And it was apricot walls and green carpet. So those are the days.
This sounds like the 80s.
Oh, that's so, yes.
Peach and grey. Everything was peach and grey. It was so
early 90s, yeah.
Glass bricks.
Yes. The big thing, I think, is people don't realise what extra costs will come about digging digging your block of land. Your rock, your soil removal, your peering. If they come up against something, God forbid if they, it's near sewer, you need to build over sewer. So all those things, actually we did get caught out with sewer one, yes. Because sewer, if you're building over sewer, you need to get more engineering in, you need to encase it needs to be strengthened. So,
and different council authorities have different approaches to that, don't they, in terms of what sort of engineering solutions that you need to have, and also how close you can build to the sewer before you have to have those engineered solutions.
Yes.
So I know I have a sewer running through my block and the design just sits nicely around that. So I haven't had to build over it, but I've gone to within an inch of where I'm allowed to.
Where your easement is for it. Yes. Yeah. So hidden costs would be the main thing. When they start digging, I never realised when I first built all those years ago that could be extra money that the builder will be asking for.
What a collection of experiences you are. And really that's what an expert is someone who has a collection of experiences and can share and intervene between the person who doesn't know what they don't know and the mistakes that you've come across that other people have made in the past. And we call your First Home Buyer Guide Becoming an Educated Buyer. And certainly for anyone who's going down the path of looking at a house and land, or they've got a piece of land, or they're knocking down a house and they're going to put a house on it, it certainly is about understanding what you don't know, as well as understanding what's on the contract that you might be aware of, so that you don't run into all of those extraordinary expenses and start borrowing and stealing from anybody that you possibly can, just to get that thing finished.
That's
miserable.
Right. Yes. And
emotional. Yeah.
Well, that's what I say. I take the stress out of it, and I'm honest. I would tell you exactly, your pricing, and what problems you might come up against as well. So that's the thing with the display hunt. I think they sort of rush you through a bit and just quickly get you that price, and you moved on to the next person. And we haven't even talked about colour selections. Oh my gosh, when you go to their colour selection.
And sometimes those are limited, aren't they? You can have this, this and this, or any colour as long as it's that one.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of them don't include downlights. You just get the batten. So,
really?
You pay extra. Yeah.
That's a lesson. Wow. My God.
You have to pay for downlights. Yeah, you don't get an aerial. You don't get an aerial plot. You've got to pay for that. So,
wow.
And it's not until these people go to the their colour selection appointment, and they can be walking out with an extra $10,000 that they have to pay.
So we're going to put a download for this episode of some of the tips that Kerri-Anne is sharing with us. Kerri-Anne, would you add in a checklist of things to ask about?
Yes, certainly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure if you want resource. That, go to the show notes and you'll be able to download Kerri-Anne's checklist of things to look for when you're buying brand new home. Veronica, I don't know about you, but this has been one of the episodes that I've learnt the most out of, because we don't purchase for clients in this space. So I just haven't had exposure to it to hear some of this really in-depth information from somebody who's deeply exposed to it and working in this space. So thank you. I've learned a lot today.
Problems. Yeah, I hope that helps someone. I hope that helps a first-time buyer, and just to ask a few more questions when they get that build price.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kerri-Anne. That was very illuminating. I also have learned heaps. So, and my mind is whirring with possibilities here. So we appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
In this episode, we've covered a very small part of our 10-step online course for first-time buyers. If you would like to learn more about the process and how to buy without making a mistake, then head over to our website, www.homebuyeracademy.com.au. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss an episode. And if you like what you've heard today, please give us an iTunes review. 5 stars would be wonderful. It will help others find us as well.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this really useful. And if you have, please share the love with others who you know are in the same boat. We'll be back next week with some more priceless stuff.